on CityCast Austin, fall is in the air, and for some people, that causes a desire to go pitch a tent in the woods. So I am here with Pam LeBlanc, adventurer extraordinaire, to get some tips on how to make that camping trip the best one ever. CityCast Austin is brought to you by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tecovas. It's Monday, September 9th. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, I am here today with Pam LeBlanc, adventurer and freelance writer, and we are going to talk all about camping. Hi, Pam. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So it's cooling down, sort of. And I know that it's camping time. I am not a camping enthusiast.
Oh, Nikki, you are missing out.
But, I grew up camping. My dad was in a motorcycle club. And so a part of us going to motorcycle rallies was camping. So I grew up camping. It was lovely and wonderful and some of my favorite memories, but it was just like, yeah, we're also outside. And then I used to do a thing in Austin called Burning Flipside as an adult, which is like Texas's version of Burning Man.
Okay.
Also, and that's where I found out about glamping.
Okay.
Which is more my speed.
Yeah.
So I hear that the weather is about to be perfect for camping in Central Texas.
Now is the season for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So what makes fall so good? Like why fall?
Okay, well, we've just survived the burning hot summer and everybody is excited about that. So to get outside when the temperatures start to cool down, oh my gosh, it's heaven. And also, I mean, things are pretty this time of year. We've gotten a little bit of rain maybe, or hopefully we'll get some. In certain parts of Texas, like Garner State Park and Lost Maples, the trees might be turning. We have a little bit of fall color here, so you'll see a blanket of red, orange, or yellow. So all these things, but especially the break in the heat, make it the perfect time to pull your tent out and go outside.
So I mentioned earlier, glamping is more my speed, right? And I was lucky enough as an adult to have friends that was like, you'll like it. Here are all of the things that you need to be comfortable. So, but I feel like there are more people maybe that we think that just, they've never been camping. They feel like it's too much of a hassle or whatever, or they feel like it's not something we can do in Texas.
Sure. There's
a lot to know about it. First of all, before they think about where, what should they know?
Okay, well, you have to know that you're going to be outside in the great outdoors. There may or may not be a flushing toilet nearby. You're going to have to bring your own mobile house, which would be, either a tent that you'll have to know how to put up yourself, or you can do a little bit easier and rent a cabin at a state park, or you might have a camper van or a recreational vehicle of some sort. But I love just basic camping in a tent. And there's also different ways to do that. You can do car camping, which is super easy. You just load your tent into a vehicle, go to a state park where you have a reservation. That's key. You set up your tent not far from your car, or you can do more backcountry camping, which would involve loading all your gear into a backpack and hiking, however far you want to go and setting up a tent there. They're all great options.
As a first timer, what would you say is the easiest and best way to dip your foot in? What type of camping is best for first timers?
Well, I think that car camping is a great way to go. You might want to borrow some gear from a friend before you invest in a lot of expensive stuff, because tents can be expensive. If you're really a little bit nervous about being outside, some of the state parks offer screen shelters, which are kind of like the gateway drug into camping, I would say. Ooh. You don't have to, it's like a screen shelter with no cot or bed or anything inside, but it's a place where you can set up, a sleeping bag or a cot, and you don't have to worry about if you're worried about snakes or bugs or raccoons attacking in the middle of the night. You don't have to worry about that.
So, okay, now that you bring me to a good point. about the cost. I love this idea of borrowing. The first time I was going to go camping as an adult, I was more excited about the shopping part of it than I was the camping part of it. So I went to Academy and I was like, I need a tent that I can stand up in. And I'm 5'4". And the very nice person at Academy talked me into buying a 10-person tent. And I was like, this is great.
Well, that's hard to set up.
I know. I showed up at the campsite and everybody was like, why? Why do you have this gigantic tent?
Yeah.
So let's talk about price. That's a great idea to borrow.
Yeah. If you have a friend who's into the great outdoors, try borrowing from them. I know that some stores have, like REI has a program where they will take you on a short weekend backpacking trip here in Austin, and they would provide a tent. Texas Parks and Wildlife has a beginner camping program. I think it's called Camping 101, where they will provide basic gear and walk you through what to do over like a 2-night excursion. And they will teach you everything from how to put up a tent to how to cook something over a campfire. And that's a minimal investment. You're not buying all the gear. Well, one of the things that makes a tent expensive, or some of the other gear that you might need expensive, is the weight of it. So if you want a lightweight tent that you can carry in the backcountry, it's going to cost more than that 10-person heavy tent that you bought from Academy. So that's where things get high dollar, is the shaving every ounce off part.
I'm curious, does the Austin camping ban apply to city parks too? Or are there city parks that people can just like pop up at camp and spend the night?
There is an Austin park. It's called Emma Long Metropolitan Park out on Lake Austin off City Park Road. And they have a campground and you can get a permit to camp there, make a reservation in advance. There's a lot of parks in the Austin area, including McKinney Falls State Park, which is a state park, and they have a wonderful campground there, and it's so close to downtown Austin. So those are two places that are really close to town that allow people to set up tents and camp overnight.
And so what about state parks? You also mentioned state parks. What are some of your favorite state parks to camp in?
Yeah, there are so many great state parks. I love Colorado Bend State Park, which is near Lampasas, which is, I don't know, maybe an 1.5, 2-hour drive from here. It's along the river. It's got a beautiful waterfall that you can hike to. I think I mentioned Lost Maples earlier, especially in fall when the colors are changing. Lost Maples is a great place to camp. You can do backcountry camping there, so you could hike up a ridgeline and set up your tent out in the middle of nowhere, and all you see are stars. There's no cars or houses or people. Those are two that are high on my list. Enchanted Rock State Park, which is also a little bit more than an hour.
Love Enchanted Rock. I love Enchanted Rock. Yeah.
Yeah. And, they have a car camping area at that you can drive your vehicle to. But if you're feeling a little more adventurous, there's I think it's a 2 or 3 mile loop that goes to the other side of the giant granite dome, and there are places to camp on the backside too. And I often tell people who are interested in getting into backpacking about that option, because it's a very short hike, relatively speaking, for backpacking, but it's a good introduction. It's a good way to shake out your gear and see if you like it.
I love that. Both of my sisters are avid campers. My partner is an avid camper. I seem to be the only one. And I know we have some amazing national parks.
Yeah.
Some are campable and some aren't. What are your favorite national parks that Austinites can get to quickly?
The big national park in Texas that everyone who's a Texan has to go, or you lose your Texan card, is Big Bend National Park. And it's about an 8-hour drive from here, and it is fantastic. I've been going there for years. You can camp either in the desert or in the Chisos Basin area of that park. One caveat, that park is going to be closing the basin area starting in January 2025 to do some renovations on some infrastructure up there. So that part of the park is going to be closed for at least a year or two. But another option, if you like that part of the state, is Big Bend Ranch State Park, which is just west of the national park. And it's a little more rugged, doesn't have all the amenities, but they have very remote campsites that you drive a four-wheel drive vehicle to and camp in the desert, and it is spectacular.
Now listen, Pam, the one time I went to Big Bend National Park, I went with some friends because we had gone to Terlingua. The one time in my life I saw a black bear, a small black bear, too close for comfort.
Oh, you were lucky to see that. That's wonderful.
That's what everybody kept saying. This little tiny baby black bear trying to get into the trash thing. And we were on the side taking pictures. And I was like, something is moving up there. Something's going on. But I will agree with you. It was gorgeous. It was, gorgeous. Would I sleep there at night? No.
It's all about comfort level. And I will throw in here, you got to get comfortable in the outdoors. Another option for people like you who like maybe a little more of the finer things in life, there's a 42 parks in the Central Texas area that are operated by the Lower Colorado River Authority, LCRA. And some of those parks have glamping options. You had mentioned earlier, like glamping.
Yeah.
So there are parks at Lake Bastrop that you can go, and they already have either a yurt or an Airstream trailer that's pre-set up.
That's my speed.
Yeah, there are other options like that down at Matagorda. The LCRA runs, and you can reserve a Airstream trailer. So it's like camping, sort of, but you don't have to set anything up. You just arrive and you're done. So that makes it a little fancier, I guess. But it's an option.
I love those options for myself because I love the sitting outside in front of a fire and talking to my friends.
Who doesn't?
That part of it, I love that kind of connection. And when it's kind of cold and you have to bundle up in front of a fire, love it.
S'mores over the campfire.
My friends have made me so many delicious meals over campfires.
Yeah.
And then I hop in my car and go home. So I love that glamping is an option. So let's talk a little bit about these campsites. And you mentioned earlier, reservations. Are reservations a good idea period? Do you always have to have them? And are they hard to get?
Yes. So plan ahead. The Texas state parks are very popular with good reason. We have some fantastic parks here in the state. But you want to, especially if you're looking at a weekend, you want to plan ahead. If you're flexible and able to camp during the middle of the week, it's a little easier. The Texas Parks and Wildlife Reservation website has an option where if you decide you want to camp this weekend, you can search just for sites that are available this weekend. But some of the more popular campgrounds, especially Lost Maples in the fall, Enchanted Rock, some of the ones that I had mentioned are a little bit tricky to get into if you don't reserve a site at least a couple, 3 weeks ahead of time. But if you do think ahead, it's not a problem.
What do you think is the sweet spot for the amount of days that you should camp?
I love the luxury of having 2 nights because then you have a full day in the middle to really relax and get into the groove of things. Mm-hmm. Sometimes if you're just rushing out one day, spending the night and rushing back, feel like you don't really get a chance to unwind and appreciate what camping is all about. And the whole point of camping is to relax and unplug and leave your phone somewhere else and don't get on your computer and turn off the TV, turn off the radio, and just enjoy the sounds of nature. That's the whole point for me.
Y'all, can I tell you about these Tecovas boots? These boots are handmade, high quality, stylish, and comfortable right out the box. I know we buy everything online these days, but boots are something you really should get fitted for. And it just so happens that Tecovas is based right here in Austin. So grab a friend, head on over to the Tecovas flagship on South Congress or to their store at the Domain. Do you know what's better than shopping? Shopping with a beer. This is wild, but when you go in, a friendly person hands you a cold beer for free while you shop around. Tecovas will personalize your boots or anything else you buy with customized leather stamping. So come shop with me at the Tecova store on South Congress or the Domain. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. What would you say to the people like me who are like, gross nature, but want to, but want to do it? You know, like everybody's not like me. Some people don't like nature because we're afraid of bugs. Everybody has all their different reasons.
Sure.
Any tips on making that experience a little easier when it comes to being in nature when you're not used to being in nature?
Bring a bottle of wine. No, I'm kidding.
Yes. I ain't talking about speed.
I think it's all about getting used to it and realizing that most of the things that you're going to encounter, think about what it is out there that's making you uncomfortable or nervous. Are you afraid that a spider is going to walk across your arm? Are you afraid that a bear is going to, tear down your tent? If you think logically about what could possibly happen, really, there's not a lot of bad things on that list. A raccoon could come into your camp and steal your package of bacon. I've had that happen before. Or, you might have mosquito bites. Well, get inside your tent and make sure that you zip up the flaps securely. Are you afraid of the dark? Like, why? Think about what it is that's making you nervous, and then try to think logically about the reality of it. Chances are you're not going to get attacked by a wild animal. I have woken up, I will mention this, I have woken up, unzipped my tent flaps, and found a tarantula walking outside my tent door. But tarantulas are not going to hurt you either.
I just learned that, yeah.
Yeah, just admire the nature and consider yourself lucky for seeing the things that you get to see. And I love to camp. I have had the most wonderful experiences out in the wild, and I find sleeping in a tent so cozy. Solo camping is another thing that I encourage people to do, and you can sort of ease into that by, booking a spot in a campground so you're not really all alone. But then from there, you can build up to maybe hiking back into the backcountry and putting up a tent there. But the thing to me about camping is if you're in a tent, unless you're car camping, it means that you're going someplace that not everybody else can get to. So it's the solitude of it. Like, you are able to get away from all the lights of the city and just listen to the buzz of the insects and, the rustle of the leaves and the wind. And it's just a wonderful way to kind of get in touch with yourself.
Do you have a preference between solo camping and camping with friends?
I generally love to camp with my friends just because it's all about socializing with them and enjoying things together in nature. But a solo camping trip now and then is a great way to shake the cobwebs out of your head. And I also love canoe camping. So we'll load all our gear onto a canoe and strike off on a river and then pull over periodically to spend the night. And the beauty of that is it's you don't have to worry so much about the weight of all your gear.
Do you have to hike back up to your car?
Well, you have to find a way to shuttle. So I'm thinking I do a trip in West Texas on the Devil's River. I've done it 5 times. It's a fantastic trip. But we hire somebody to drive us upstream to a put-in. They drop us off, and then we spend 4 days paddling back down to their house and get out at their house.
Wow.
So we're leaving our vehicle there and then paying someone to drop us off. So it does require some logistical coordination or good friends that you can bribe into taking you wherever you need to go. You can't just camp willy-nilly on the bank, but it's legal in Texas to camp on a navigable river if there's a gravel island. You just can't put up a tent on the banks, but you can legally put up a tent on these gravel islands in the middle of the river.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So, okay, I have to ask you, You mentioned earlier, so when I would camp for Flipside, one of the biggest issues for me was the bathroom situation. And I know that that might be a concern for others. Now, I know that there are some campsites, they have full on plumbing, running water. You can go and do all of that.
Yeah.
Other places sometimes maybe have a porta potty.
Right.
For the people that want to just kind of be in the rough, there are plenty of options that you can buy to take care of waste yourself. Do you have suggestions for that?
So the first level is Texas state parks would have flushing toilets, and a lot of the parks have renovated their facilities. So that's easy. Sinks, showers, even. Some of them are very nice. If you are going into the back country, depending on where you go, and you need to find out before you go, if you're going on a backpacking trip, for example, in a national forest or national park, it may be a situation where you can dig cat holes along the way. So you bring a little spade, you dig a little hole, you do your business, you cover it up, you pack out any paper. You do not leave the toilet paper in the wilderness. You pack that into a bag and put it in a special container in your backpack and haul it out. There are also, in certain areas that you backpack, you're not allowed to do that if it's a heavily used area. I'm thinking of Mount Whitney in California. And you have to bring in what's called a WAG bag. And it's a special double sealed bag with some chemicals in it. So you do your business. You unfold the bag, you do your business, and then you seal it all up. And it has special chemicals in there to make it sanitary, and then you put it in a special container and haul it out. So that's another way to deal with it. And I'm talking about number two. So as far as number one, the world is your toilet.
Yeah, exactly.
Not
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, right. You can go pee behind a tree if you need to. In most areas, don't do it in the middle of the trail. Be polite. Go behind a tree. Nobody wants to see you. So I just got back from a rafting trip in Idaho, and we camped for 5 nights, and then along the way they set up, you have a special box that they actually haul with you. It's a big square metal container with a toilet seat on top, and they would set it up every night in some beautiful spot that had an incredible view. I've done this on the Grand Canyon too. They put a little tent around it so nobody, it's on 3 sides.
Yeah.
And the side that's open, you're seeing, a beautiful scene down the river. And we call that a loo with a view. So that's another way people do it.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, and some of the best scenery you can imagine from the loo with a view.
Listen, that sounds way better than a cat hole. The horror of me digging a hole. My whole body is like, nope. But a loo with the view, I can absolutely get into. That's great.
Yes. I don't know if this is too much information or not, but
never.
Okay. All right. On other trips, I have paddling friends who have paddled distances in the ocean, and they will do, if the water is warm, what they refer to as an aqua dump. So they'll wade out into the ocean, do their business, and come back. So all I'm going to say about that.
Oh my God, Pam, that's great. You're giving me so many gems today. Cat holes, aqua dump, loo with the view.
Just be careful where you do that. I am not condoning that type of behavior, but I do know people that do that. So I do not recommend that. And only if you're in a very remote area. Do not do it anywhere near a public beach, please.
No.
Please.
So, okay, speaking of, along the lines of preparation, what should people be prepared for if things go wrong while they're camping or out in nature? What are just some good tips? Because things go wrong sometimes.
Sure. Okay. Number 1 rule is let somebody know where you're going and when you expect to be back. Know the terrain that you're getting into. Places like Big Bend in particular, which get really hot, where there's not a lot of access to water. You need to come prepared with plenty of drinking water, letting people know where you are. Bringing all the proper gear. That means long sleeve sun shirt if it's, going to be hot out and sunny. It means sunscreen. It means if it's going to get cold at night, the proper equipment to keep your body comfortable, food, electrolytes, the basic proper shoe wear is really critical. If your feet are uncomfortable while you're hiking somewhere, then you're just going to be miserable. Other things, it depends on your personal comfort level. Car camping is a lot easier, obviously, than if you're going into the backcountry. But just basic gear, tent, sleeping bag, pillow, or a bunch of old T-shirts that you've been wearing along the way to use as a pillow, that sort of thing. Yeah. And, maybe emergency, if there are any prescription drugs that you need, stuff like that, please bring a toothbrush and toothpaste.
Yeah, the basics. Let's talk food because, the last time I went camping, like I said, was with Flipside, and we're there for 4 or 5 days. And so, of course, I had an entire moving tub full of food just because, I'm an overpacker by nature. But if you're going to a quick weekend camp or a 2-day camp, what are some good, just easy peasy food options?
Yeah. Okay. So it runs the gamut. I have friends who get really elaborate when they camp and they're totally into it. I don't really cook, not even at home. My husband's in charge of that. But if we're going for an easy overnight camping trip, then he's going to pack a cooler with hamburgers or sausage or something that we can throw on the grill when we're out there. If you don't want to do all the muss and fuss of making an elaborate meal, which, you can also do the pineapple upside down cake. You can get as fancy as you want. But there's also the dehydrated meal option. And interestingly, there's a company in Austin. It's called Packet Gourmet. And they make my favorite dehydrated meals. And I just heard about another Texas-based dehydrated meal company called Kettles and Bowls. I haven't tried them yet.
Ooh.
But they are, it's a step above, some of the other old-fashioned dehydrated meals. You just need to boil water for it. So you can get a tiny little camp stove that's like the size of a cigarette lighter. And then you can boil a container of water on that and add it to a dehydrated meal. But, half the fun for some people is cooking out by the campfire and, hamburgers, steaks, a fish that you've just caught out of the river or lake. But you just got to remember that you have to haul it out there and keep things cold. So,
yeah. And also leave no trace, like you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. Please don't leave your trash.
So can you tell us about your all-time worst camping experience in Texas? Because I'm curious about how bad it can get. Because in my head, you mentioned this earlier, you're like, it's not as bad as people think, but I do need a worst case scenario.
Okay. I did have one unpleasant night, particularly unpleasant night. I was on the Texas coast, and it was I was following some paddlers who were going up the Texas coast, and we were just camping in ridiculous places along the way. And one night, I can't even remember the area. It was somewhere on the Texas coast, and we just found an abandoned stretch of land along in the inland water channel there, and it was muddy, and a storm blew up, and I was in my tent, and I had to wake up in the middle of the night to pee, and I got outside, and I stepped into 4 inches of mud.
Oh.
I had my cell phone with me because I was doing some work stuff, and it got flooded and quit working. There were so many mosquitoes. I thought I was going to die. There was a storm. It was just kind of not a fun experience. But the wonderful nights far exceed the not wonderful nights.
Right. This is how I know you're a true adventurer, because it's as soon as I'm mud, There's bears, there's mud, there's rain. I'm just leaving I'm just leaving. I'm leaving. But I love that stick-to-itiveness. I love just...
Yeah, it makes you feel alive. It makes the food better. It makes everything better when you're out in the wilderness.
On the flip side, what are a few of your favorite memories camping in Texas? Is it hard to even pick?
Oh my gosh. I really love camping out at Big Bend National Park and Big Bend Ranch State Park. I've been on some bike packing trips through Big Bend Ranch where we load all our gear onto mountain bikes and then camp along the way. And it's extremely rugged and it's hard and it's tiring and I have to get off and push my bike in different places. But then you get to camp and you're there with your friends and the sun goes down and the stars come out and you can hear coyotes yipping in the background. And it just feels like it feels unchanged. It feels like the way Texas must have been, 200 years ago. And so to have that connection with Texans from a bygone era just makes my heart so happy. I love it. And seeing animals out in the wilderness is, seeing that bear that you saw, that is just such a cool thing. And, seeing a bald eagle fly overhead or, having a raccoon invade your camp, which I've had happen a couple of times. It's actually kind of hilarious and fun.
You have just described a movie that I would love to watch. Now, as an adventurer and an Austinite, what is on your bucket list for this fall in Central Texas? What's on your bucket list?
Ooh, well, I haven't plotted it all out yet, but I am going to Inks Lake this weekend just because I go there all the time. It's close and I can get to it, camping along that river, and I'm going to Big Bend in November, so I'll do a little bit of camping out there. I love it all, and I even like exploring just the smaller, lesser known parks that a lot of people don't know about. Avoiding the crowds and just getting to know the state more.
I promised my friends that I would, earlier this year, go on a camping trip to Pace Bend Park. And then something happened and I was like, oh no, we can't do it. It wasn't my fault. I didn't back out. But something happened and we couldn't do it. And so I know that eventually I'm going to have to make good on that promise to go camping.
Do it.
And so the next time we talk, I might have a story that is hopefully going to be one of, it was so amazing.
Well, I can't wait to hear it.
You make it sound lovely. And so thank you for being here and having this conversation with me about it and making it sound so desirable. This is a first for me. I will give you that. This is a first. Thank you so much for being here, Pam.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, this was really fun. And I look forward to hearing about your first super fun camping trip. I know it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Bye, Pam.
Bye. Have a good day.
That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to Pam's social media in our show notes. If you enjoy the show, why not tell a friend and bring them to our Austin in Stereo party at Tacovas on South Congress this Thursday evening. And while you're at it, don't forget, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.